was a study at the Wuppertal Institute in Germany from Weizsäcker. He's actually the brother of our famous former president. And they actually were investigating how much material you need, for example, to produce 1 kilo of aluminium. This is fine. You say, okay, this is okay. But if we are talking about 1 kilo of copper, you waste about 420 kilos of material. So that is really a lot. Now this is actually when you want to produce the things. Now on top of that, we have the other thing. If you produce a toothbrush, that means it is the weight, it is not the real weight, but it is the theoretical weight would be 1.5 kilo. You need 1.5 kilo of material to produce a toothbrush, which weighs probably a couple of grams. Yeah. A coffee machine, 298. A mobile phone, 75. A computer, 1,500 kilos of material to produce one computer. And you know how many computers we produce. So, I mean, if these numbers are right in this, but it gives you an idea about the range, what the orders of magnitude we are talking about. And from that point of view, it's always good to think about that. Yeah? So one thing is actually then waste avoidance that we have actually to deal with. That means other production techniques, other materials, and so on to reduce that. And the other thing is also that also the daily waste, the daily life, we can also, each person of us can do something in regard to waste avoidance. Waste avoidance is always written in any legislation in the front, but at the end of the day, how many actually practice that, that's a different story. We can do that with packaging waste, for example, and so on. Why do we have to put a toothbrush into a package of cardboard? And those kind of things could be done. A lot of things have already been done, but I think there's a huge potential to do that. Now, what is important if you want to talk about waste treatment, waste waste technologies, then of course we need the legislation. Without any legislation, it is hard to implement something because people mostly would look for the cheapest way to get rid of waste. Now, this is very important, and the good thing is actually with the European Union that countries that were not very much advanced in waste management, now they were forced to do that. Because now we have EU legislation where all the member states have actually the same legislation. So Germany and Austria and Netherlands and Scandinavia, they were always pretty advanced. But we had southern European countries, they really had a big push and they really made big efforts in actually meeting those standards. So what is important is the producer, the extended producer responsibility for the actually the products that are produced. That's very important. I'll come back to that later. The producer pay principle, pay as you throw, so that you say if I throw less, produce less waste, I have to pay less. Yeah? And this is important. Proximity principle, not carry the waste all over the world. You perhaps also in Singapore you heard about this disaster in Naples in southern Italy where they put all the waste on the roads because they had no incinerator, they had no landfills, they had no nothing anymore, and actually they transported the waste, some of the waste, from Naples to Hamburg, which is around 2,500 kilometers. Transporting normal household waste. I mean, you see how things may become ridiculous. Now, this is the proximity principle: handle the waste where it is produced. Encourage separate collection. This is also something. Minimum standards, best available technology. This is always written, but what stands behind that is sometimes realized a little later. Now, some of the laws that we have now on the EU level is on incineration of the waste. That means the same emission standards for all incinerators. which is very important. Same standards for landfills. And then we have on waste oil, sewage sludge, batteries, recovery of batteries. It's a very important part because you know all the batteries, you put that in landfills or incinerators, they cause a lot of problems. Packaging waste, we have packaging directive, PCBs, end-of-life vehicles, and the electric and electronic waste. So these are things, they are all implemented, and these are all actually legislation that have to be met, and they have all strict target values. Now, if we are talking about waste recovery, we have also to talk about source separation. I think that's important because then you get a better quality of recycled materials. And from that point of view, this is an important thing. In Europe, a lot of countries, I don't know how many, perhaps 10, 12 countries have also implemented the packaging law. That means that you should recover and source the different packaging materials, and then you have also target values, how much of these materials that you collect, 7%, and also how much you recover of the materials. I'll come back to that in a minute. Now, if we look at this here, it's just an example of the green dot system. The idea is that if you buy a package, you have to pay for the package, but you don't pay directly, you pay through the price of the product. And the producer of the product gets also the money from that. That means this producer of the product, for example, somebody that produces the toothpaste, has to pay to a so-called dual system, a certain amount of money. Let's say 1 cent per kilo or 2 cents per kilo of cardboard, more for plastic and so on. This money comes all to the dual system, and from there they have the money and they have their own collection system. So beside of our normal collection system, we have the collection system for the packaging material, and this packaging material is then segregated in different fractions, like glass, paper, cardboard, and then recycled. So this is the system. We can probably, if you have questions later on, we can discuss that. There are pros and cons about the system, but in effect, you see they have about of the packaging about, as an example, 70 kilos per inhabitant per kilo. Now, if you are thinking about total waste production, just the household waste is about 300 kilos, so it is quite a big percentage. So this is well, but you need separate collection, otherwise the material is not good. Now, here you see the requirements of, I don't want to read it, you can see that, how much actually of the material has to be recovered. The dual system is obliged to do that, otherwise, you know, they have to, I don't know what happens then, but they have to do that, and they have also to show that they actually have reach those target values. I don't know how they actually do that, but they do. Now, these are the values. You see pretty high recovery rates. Now, what can you do with the separate collection of waste? You can have a one bin system, which actually in Germany is not existing anymore. In many European countries not. So we have at least 2 bin system, that we have one of the wet organic waste separation. I think this is very important, because whenever you want to do recycling, you should have something to say as a wet bin, dry bin. It's important because if you put the food waste together with the paper and plastic, the quality of the material is not very good. So this is actually what is done. And then you have the 3 bin system, what we have now, for example, in Hamburg, where you have a separate bin for paper. Why a separate bin for paper? Because it's really very economic for the companies. Because these, for example, the paper, the separate collection of the paper is done partly by the communities, but also by private enterprise, because you can really make money with that. Of course, the prices are fluctuating. Sometimes you make a lot of money, sometimes you have to leave, put some paper on store and wait until the prices are better. So, and then the separate collection of the packaging waste, I said that also. And in addition, we have also community centers. Community centers where actually people bring their waste, the things that you don't know what to do with that. For example, you have the house, remodel the house, you put some materials, stones, or whatever out of the house, what do you do with it? Yeah, or you have painting, what do you do with the residual paint, and all these things. Now these are brought to community centers, and there you can bring all kinds of different waste materials, and either they recover that or they safely dispose of it. Glass is mostly collected in bottle banks. This is not into the dual system. We bring that. There are bottle banks, shopping centers or whatever, and this is what you do. And this is the other materials, as I said already. They are in these waste community centers, which are actually very attractive. So on Saturdays you see long lines of cars, getting to the centers and bringing them, because they don't know what to do with that. So that's a very good system actually, and they have, I don't know how many different, I would say 20 different kinds of waste. They have big bins and then they collect them. Now if we are talking about waste collection, this is also something which has not very much developed. It is still a little bit middle-aged. Probably here in Singapore you don't see that much because this is all in the houses, but if you go, for example, to Europe or other countries, you see always these bins outside. Very often they are dirty, it doesn't look like. In the cities you have also containers which are ugly at the time. So the idea is, how can we improve that system? One idea, which is actually very much also promoted in the Netherlands, is a system that we have subsurface containers, and you have an opening. Here in the middle, you have the opening, you put the material in. Now, the system works in that way that you have a kind of sensor that shows you when this when this container is full. And when this container is full, the signal goes to a waste truck driver, and then he only drives here on demand. So whenever one of these containers is full, the truck driver goes there and takes it out. So not the normal routing as we have that today. They just go where it is full on demand. And you can do that for all different kinds of waste. You can do that for mixed waste, for plastic, plastics, all this. So it's an interesting concept, which is of course more expensive than the other, than the other one. But it is something, to consider. It looks nice, much better also from the aesthetic department. Another thing is the subsurface piping system, that you have actually pipes. You have a vacuum system. You put the material in, and then you collect it, and then either you suck that out by the truck, or you have intermediate station. There are different kinds of systems. This kind of system is, for example, in Barcelona, in Spain, they have larger areas of that. In Mallorca, they have that. There are a couple of those in Scandinavia, and I think it'll probably take a while, but I think it's coming more and more, because it's a system where then you can avoid that the trucks are going, and with the problems with the traffic today, it's not that easy to collect the waste. So this is one thing that may be of interest. Another interesting development, which is actually not completely developed, but it can be used partially already, is an automatic sorting system, and this is actually what we need. Because, for example, if we have plastic, and we have mixed plastic has not a very high value. But if you would be able to separate the polyethylene, the polypropylene, the PVC separately, then those materials have a high value. Now, with these systems, this is a kind of automatic, this is a kind of sensor system, yeah, where you have the reflection, absorption, reflection, and change of the emitted light. So you have a light, and the reflection you measure with the infrared system. Then you can actually distinguish between different kinds of material, and you can actually get to the system. So